Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Simply Shed Talk, where we come to you live from the shed industry and talk about anything pertaining to the shed industry. Of course, with your host, Andrew Boyle, and your co host.
Peter Miller, and it's now the tax day here in America. So make sure you have filed your taxes by today because the government will be looking for you if you don't. I don't think there's as many IRS agents anymore, but hey, we're still wanting to make sure that we render unto Caesar what is Caesar's.
Yeah, absolutely. I do apologize for being a few minutes late. I've had a little bit of things going on this week. Um, we have had our eighth child. Um, on what is today again? Today's Wednesday 'cause we're on the show. Uh, he was born on Monday. We got back from the hospital, and the other part why I'm was a little late, Peter, is of course with having eight children now, I have to have a big van, and I went from always having Fords to getting a Chevy Express van, diesel,
Very nice.
and
Very
I
good.
thought, man, this thing is indestructible, and it's been to the shop 3 times now. The first shop replaced the serpentine belt and the alternator. And then I was like, well, there's some fluid leaking. They're like, no, there's no fluid leaking. So there was. So I took another shop. They replaced the brake booster. And I got it, and it was still squealing. I took it to the third shop, which is who I picked up today. And they're like, oh, it's just your belt needed oil. Don't worry about it. I literally went out of the parking lot and the belt squealing. And I was like, I don't have time. I got to get back to get on the show. And so now they'll be going to the fourth shop. So the moral of the story, Peter, is don't buy a Chevy. Sorry, everybody out there that loves the Chevys, but
Well,
anyways,
maybe it's the repair shop. I don't know.
well, this was 3 different repair shops, by the way. But anyways, we're excited to have our eighth child now, and we got home yesterday afternoon, and the mom and baby are doing great. So praise the Lord. We're excited to have another child to join our family. But Peter, I know I haven't talked to you much. I know you've called me a couple times since I was in the hospital, and I didn't really have good service. But I've never been to prison, but I think I know how it feels because, and you could probably relate to this, Peter. Obviously you have
Okay.
kids. The second day you're in the hospital after having your kid, or I guess the first day, and like, okay, you're gonna get ready to go home, and it's like you're waiting on the paperwork to release you, and it's like hours and hours go by. And it's like, how hard is this? And it's like, I just want to go home, but they won't let you. And so, like, man, this is kind of what prison feels like. This is pretty close.
Well,
So
you definitely are at their mercy. I know last year we had a scare with our son James. Went to the hospital, and they kind of felt that way. We were ready to leave to go home, but the doctors hadn't signed all the paperwork. So, uh,
yeah,
but
and
anyways,
I think they purposely do it where you don't have good cell phone service. So all I could do was text. But I will say we have some exciting stuff, Peter, with the shed industry. I am super excited about it. I know when I was sitting there at the hospital on the couch in prison, I got a lot of stuff done on it, and was lucky enough to have good Wi-Fi. So we have that stuff coming out very soon. I'm excited for the shed industry. And I was just going over some statistics. Looking up some statistics for today. And if you look at the shed industry, how much it's growing and what it's on pace to do is incredible. What has in store for the shed industry. And just looking at the statistics, it's predicted to grow to another $1 billion in the next 4 years, to be
wow,
$1 billion bigger than it already is as far as industry wide. And
right.
that is absolutely massive. And the people that are going to take advantage of that and continue to grow their lots and ideas. So much opportunity out there. It's so much to be excited for. But Peter, what are we talking about today? I know you would call me for like 2 minutes about some things you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'd like to talk about is the industry is growing, but also the fraud is growing in the industry. And one of the things that we have seen is people having different ways of uh, buying a shed. Maybe it's a rent to own contract or even a cash sale, and they say, "Hey, we'll pay you when it's delivered." Most of the times, this is only a rent to own deal. If you're a cash seller, you might have problems here, but rent to own, you bring the building there, and then next thing you know, you go back a month later, and the rent to own company is saying, "Where's my shed?" Because they picked it up and took it out of there. So we've experienced some of that, and it's definitely been something that's hurt not only the rent to own companies but also the shed lots, because if you don't get all your paperwork, you as the shed company are paying for that. And so I wanted to talk about that, and then of course
Okay.
talk more about Shed Sales Summit and what's going on there. I know we were going to try to release some of the information here, but I'm not quite there. I should have it by next week. So next week we should be able to let the cat out of the bag.
Okay. Is this a guarantee? We got this in a verbal agreement here? Next
I
week.
can't. Let's just say it's a 99.5% possibility. So you got a 0.5%.
Okay. Next week, when we come to you live from Chick-fil-A, you guys will understand. But so, Peter, do you have any examples of that's happened at your lot? What you said about the fraud and the I think I'm familiar with some of the stories from yours, but kind of fill us in of what. I mean, I know what fraud is, right? But what has it happened to you? How's it happened, or what do you do to stop it?
So we've had some potential customers call us and request to buy a building, and they want to request to buy the building sight unseen. You send them pictures. Oh yeah, I'll take it, and that's kind of how this. Now we work with a company called RTO National for our rent to own, and they've done a fabulous job. But they had one of another dealer close to us have actually a couple come in, and they got actually pictures of their driver's license. They got names and so on and so forth, and that's what had happened to them. They delivered 2 sheds. It was like right away, and they delivered the sheds, and then when they went to go get them back, they were gone. And then the word spread real quick, like, "Hey, watch out for this." And so that has happened to some around us. Thankfully, we've been able to avoid it with our lots. Praise the Lord for that. But it is something that is prevalent in the industry, and something that I want to make sure doesn't continue. So be vigilant. I would say that's one of the things that I would say. If you've had this happen to you or something similar, feel free to join the call. We'd love to talk to you about that and kind of see who else has experienced that, because that's our experience with our shed lots. Is they've attempted it. Thankfully, we've not lost a building to it, but we've had people call and try to do it over the phone.
Yeah, and I would think that's going to be more common. People, not fraud, hopefully, but calling in and wanting it over the phone, sight unseen. So we got to be careful not to be too skeptical of people calling in wanting over the phone, because I think the next generation, or even my generation, I'm not big into going shopping and all that fun stuff. So I would probably call you and say, "Hey, I know this is what I want. Deliver it." But so, what are your steps? Like, what would you consider a red flag? I mean, I know that calling over the phone is kind of a broad blanket, right? That's a lot of people. But what do you tell your people? Hey, if they do this, call me. Does that make sense? What are some of the red flags that you put out there or see?
Red flag: we'll come pick it up from your lot. I have a relative or a friend who will come and pick it up, and because I need it right away, and your delivery driver can't get it there that quick. That's a red flag. Another red flag would be them trying to use multiple different cards with different names. Those are some red flags. And then if it won't go through, that's not always the case, but there's some senses that you can have. Like when you're talking with a customer, if the story's not lining up, maybe sometimes questioning the customer on, I look at it this way. If you ask a question that you already know the answer to, then you can see if that person is truthfully telling you the same thing. So like, they just said that they lived in Miami and they want to put it in their uncle's backyard. You may say, so we're delivering this to your cousin's house in Miami. And I'm picking on Miami because we've just experienced there's been some fraud in Miami. So sorry to you guys in Miami, but you may say something that is not what they said, and if they say yeah that is, now your radar is up a little bit. You've said, okay, he said uncle, now you said cousin, it doesn't jive. Now we want to dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know people in Florida, we live about 2.5 hours away from Miami, and I have a rule, and a lot of my friends have a rule. They will not buy a car from Miami. It's just, I don't know what it is about Miami, but there's a lot of fraud that goes on down there. But if you have I don't know if we mentioned this yet, but click the link in the description. It'll bring you backstage here, and I will be able to bring you on, and you can ask a question. You can join the conversation. You can tell us your thoughts. Maybe you're from Miami, but get on here. We'd love to hear your question. I know we had a couple emailed in and text in about different questions about some repo sheds. And I know that, speaking of repo sheds, or speaking of the fraud, I know that some dealers don't necessarily like doing repos, and I get it's probably a headache. I grew up in the furniture business, and we always lent our own paper, which is kind of like a rent to own, where we would basically lend out the company's money or our money. And so we would be responsible for collecting that. So I kind of grew up that, since my dad has done that since I was 3. And then I did it as I had my own furniture stores. So I understand the difference. I understand the pain. One of the big differences in furniture and sheds, though, is furniture. I mean, I remember I could tell you some crazy stories of repoing a kid's bedroom set, swing set. It is not fun at all. Little Johnny over there, sad because you're taking his bedroom set. And a lot of it was just junk, and a lot of it went right to the dumpster. But it was just that you had to do it. Sheds are a little bit different, but I remember way back in the day, I think it was 2000 and period 2012, 2013. Alex from Superior Sheds. He used to own Superior Sheds, a great guy. And I remember him telling us, like, hey, listen, if sales get slow, obviously he was joking, but if sales get slow, go out back, kick a couple dents in some sheds, and say they're repos. And he's like, watch, people will buy them. And I was like, this was like probably 3 weeks into the shed industry. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, if I told somebody a piece of furniture is repo, they'd be like, that's nasty, bed bugs and dirty and people. And there was like a total mind shift of the shed industry that, come to find out, it's true. I mean, if you put, repo on your shed or used or stuff like that, it seems like people gravitate to those more. And a lot of times they're not any cheaper. But I think it's the sense of the customer is getting a deal. They want to make sure they get the best price. And Peter, maybe you're more of the sales than I am, but do you have customers that come in and specifically ask, do you have any used? Do you have any repo?
There are.
What's your way of doing that?
So when a customer comes onto our lot and says, I'm looking for your lowest price, it's kind of like, already you're like, all right, this person is definitely a price-based shopper. They don't necessarily care. But then when you get them in the office, then they start talking about quality. So it's kind of one half a dozen of the other. So you got to be careful how you handle that. But yes, if we have repos, we have them set up in our lot in Dalton in a certain area where when you come in, we can take you right to that location and be like, okay, here's our options. Now, you wanted an 8x10, but hey, I've got an 8x8 here. You wanted a roll-up door, but I got a 60-inch door on it. So you can kind of fluctuate a little bit with them. And one of the things is the pricing. It can be, unless it's beat up real bad. I've had ones where it looked like somebody took a shotgun with birdshot to it. Literally, there was holes all down the one side. And I was like, man, this is going to be really hard to sell unless we resheet the whole thing. But we did end up selling it. And the guy's like, oh, I don't care about it. All I'm doing is storing wood inside of it. And so he was just using it to keep, wood dry. The roof was good and things like that. But he just wanted to have an enclosed area to keep it that way. So each one has a uniqueness in itself. And that is definitely something that we handle each customer to what they are requesting. So you can listen to what they're saying, and you've got to be really careful at that point. You have to be really careful, because if you start putting your own wants and your own needs into it, you can turn off a customer real quick, because you need to be listening more than you're talking, and you need to hear exactly what they're saying. You can be a consultant or an advisor to that customer. And so when they say, yeah, we want the 8x10 with a roll-up door. Well, most 8x10s don't have a roll-up door in it. And so you can say, well, we have the option to do that for you, Mr. Customer, but we also have this option to do a swinging door as well, just to give you an idea of the different door options that we have. Not saying that we're going to do it, but just to let them know that you can do a wider door than a 36-inch door. We can do a 48-inch door. We can do a 60-inch door. All those things that maybe they didn't see because you didn't have every single option on your lot. But just letting them know there is other options than that. And so going back to the repos, they're kind of set in stone. These are the ones that we have. There's not a whole lot of flexing on that.
Yeah, so it's interesting that, I don't know if it's the economy or what it is, but I have a furniture store that I had was a brand new furniture store, all brand new stuff. And it was kind of not necessarily high end, but middle of the road. And recently we switched it to a furniture liquidator, to where we have like, stuff in the box, and the store looks ugly. I mean, it's just sofas all in a row, nothing set up, no decorations, no rugs. And it's going way better. It's like, customers want the deal. They want to save.
I'm going to push back on that. Certain customers want that. I would say, like, if you're selling high-end furniture to a customer, it's two different type of customers, I would say. And you may disagree with me, but if you're selling a $20,000 bed set, they're not going to want to go look at a $1,500 bed set. So I think
how do I mute your mic? I thought I heard you say you don't agree with me. Hold on, let me see if I can kick him out.
No, I don't, because it's like, yes, you can sell to that type of customer. You can sell, and I have a variety of different sheds. I can sell you a $50,000 or $60,000 shed, or I can sell you a $2,500 shed, depending on what it is. And so I've got to be listening to that. So I think you as a shed lot owner, a shed lot salesperson, if you have the ability to have all the scale on there, the high end and the low end, I would be very careful how you place it in your lot, because you want the appealing look right there at the front, but you want to have the bargain deal for those type of customers who walk through the door. And that way you're able to offer the best of both worlds.
There we go. So are you done disagreeing with me now, or are we going to move on?
We'll see. I mean, hey,
no, I'm just kidding.
We're not always going to agree on everything.
No, so my point with that is whether you sell high-end sheds, low-end sheds, whatever you sell, there's a market for everything. But my point was, I think when you have those repos and you put them I wouldn't put them out front, but on the, wherever you put them on your lot. But now you're giving that customer, who's even a high-end customer, every customer, whether you're a low-end customer, mid-tier customer, or high-end customer, all want a deal. Now, high-end customer does not want to, go down and buy some poor quality, but everybody wants a deal. So when you have those repo, you have those used, or I think lots even call them like last year's models. That's great, because it's the perceived value that this is a deal, and it also creates the urgency. Urgency is one of the biggest steps in sales, is creating that urgency, and that's why it's important to have a forecast of your sales. I know this is one thing I always struggle with is, what are we doing this week? I could tell you. What are we doing 3 months from now? I have no idea. So getting that forecast of that sales out
Uh,
is very important because it creates urgency.
and I agree with you. Like that's where, see there, I agreed with you. We
Yeah.
have a
Record it.
forecast for we have a forecast of what's going to happen over the next week or two. But we honestly, like, there's monkey wrenches get thrown in the mix. This morning, I got a text from one of my salespeople, and they were like, "The shed was supposed to be delivered. This shed was supposed to be delivered yesterday, and it's not here yet." And so that's kind of the thing. You've got to be ready to always be jump and move on that. And yes, it was an Eternity building. It got delivered today.
I was just trying to figure out how to mute his mic. Hold on one second. All right, we're gonna go back, and this is the bad thing of having a live show. You can't go back and erase what Peter said. But anyways, Peter, we actually have a guest who has clicked the link, and I encourage you guys. So all you have to do is click the link. You can join the conversation. You can get on and disagree with Peter. We would appreciate that. But you can get on here, ask your question, whatever you would like to promote your product, whatever you like to do. But we have a guest. I'm adding to stage here in just a second. All right, we have Mike. Oh, there we go.
How's it going, fellas? I just came on to disagree with Peter. No, just
yes, yes.
I'm gonna leave.
How are you guys doing today?
Good. How about yourself, sir?
Great. Thanks
Good.
for asking me on.
So I know we've talked about a multitude of things, but I do have a question for you, Mike. Because first of all, let me let you introduce yourself. I know who you are, but I don't know if everybody else does. So introduce yourself, and then I'll jump into my question.
Okay, and I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Andrew, although I've seen him online and around. But Mike Langston, I'm out of Tampa, Florida. We own Tampa Sheds. My brother and I, we are actually in the second, third, fourth generation, if that's even possible. My grandfather started. My dad got in it, which was his son-in-law. I was in it as a boy and ended up taking over my grandfather's side of the business. My brother ended up taking over my dad's side of the business. And now my son, my brother's son and daughter are in the business as well. So we've been, we don't know everything there is to know about sheds. We are learning something new every day, but we've took a few bumps and bruises and don't have a Harvard education, but I've spent enough money that I probably could afford a couple in this learning process of being in the shed industry here in Tampa, Florida. In we have 5 locations and we serve the greater Tampa Bay area.
Okay. So how many years has your family been in the shed business?
My grandfather opened in 1976.
Wow.
Yep. So we're 50 years. And that's a pretty wild. I've owned his side of it since 1994. My brother's been in it about 10 years. He had worked with my dad when he was younger. When my dad got ready to retire, he came back out of law enforcement and took over his side of the business. And we're kind of interesting. We call ourselves a family of shed dealerships. I have 2 locations. He has 3. We help each other out. We work together, but we keep our money separate. And Thanksgiving dinner tastes better. It just works really well for us, right? We're available to help each other out. But kind of what Hebrew's able to bring in at his lots, he manages, and when I bring in at my lots, I manage, and it's worked out really well for us.
Okay,
Yes.
so I live in Sebring, Florida.
Okay.
And you guys have one in Avon Park, don't you?
Yep, we've got a location in Avon Park and Port Charlotte, kind of on that down that far. But we're not going no further. That's far enough south for us. So
okay, yeah, I pass that one probably 3 or 4 times a week there in Avon Park.
Yes, yeah, and so that's my brother's. My brother has Avon Park, Lakeland, and Plant City, and I have Tampa and Port Charlotte.
Nice.
Well, I've known you for back since I think it was Hurricane Ian is when we met in person, and had the opportunity to be on the Shed Geek podcast with you. Really enjoyed that. I've enjoyed getting to just talk with you over the phone and definitely soak up every ounce of wisdom I can from you. Being in the industry as long as you have, you've been down a lot more roads than I have, and probably can help me manage the pitfalls that would come my way if I didn't seek out advice.
It's certainly an ever-changing industry, right? I mean, when my grandfather started, I mean, we were backyard sheds. We sold silver buildings. They were only silver corrugated aluminum with pipe frame, conduit pipe frame, and that was it. You could have any color you wanted as long as it was silver, and kind of like Ford. And so, over the years, there's been a lot of changes, and probably the biggest adjustment for us has just been from going through all those stages is the level of government involvement. It's always become more and more. There was a time where when you wanted a backyard shed, it was a backyard shed, and you put it in your backyard, it was your business, and away you went. With the hurricanes that have come over the years and different building codes and what have you, in the wisdom of the government, I think we're trying to outbuild Mother Nature in some ways on portable sheds. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out for us all, but we've certainly made some improvements in the way some of the sheds are built. But it's funny, we more than to not come across these old 30, 40-year-old pipe frame sheds that are still in service, still standing up, been through all the storms,
Mm-hmm.
So those old timers knew what they were doing too, and those sheds held up pretty well as well.
That's right. And I know I've referenced them as the silver bullet.
Yep.
That all metal, everything is one color, and it's probably about as ugly as you possibly can get. But hey,
Absolutely.
It did the job, and a lot of people bought them, and it made good storage for a lot of people. The question I was going to ask you, Mike, is on your lots. I know how we have ours set up, like with different things, but with the lots, do you have a section that you do like your repos in a certain area, or do you mix them in with the new stock? What is your thoughts on that?
We typically keep them separate. Some of them might look a little bit tired or a little bit, so we do keep them separate, and we point them out separately. Like we would never want a customer in our case to think that was a new shed or what have you. So we typically set them in a little bit different area. And as the customer comes in and we start, taking that customer journey, filling them out. And if we hear that, well, I'd really like to, find something maybe a little more affordable, or do you have anything on special or something like that? That's when we'll typically kind of ease over to the rental buildings that we've brought back, or sheds we bought back. We're seeing, I would say more, but we've got a few more on the lot than we've had recently. We're fortunate that we are on both sides. We do the rentals and the sales ourselves. We have our own rental company, so for us that's worked out well. It is a lift. I wouldn't necessarily recommend anybody jump into that unless you're really prepared for it, because it's a process to be able to handle both.
Yeah, and I would say on the rental side, it was kind of interesting because we have on our system for like our point of sale, we get to see how many active repos or retrievals is what they're called in our system,
right,
are going on. And so it was like last year we had, I remember, up to like 17, I think it was up to 21 active retrievals at one time. And we're Andrew, and then we're going and retrieving those buildings. It got all the way down to 0 for about one day, and then it started going back up. I think we're sitting, last I checked, we're at about 10 active retrievals, because those are always coming off as people make payments and different things. But with the price of fuel, I know it's not taking a whole lot. Like, we're only, I think, 2 months in. The price of fuel and things like that, do you think that's going to create a lot more retrievals, or do you think that's going to be something that will be stymied?
It seems like, when you see this level of uncertainty in a lot of different areas there, I'm not a glass, half empty guy, I don't think, but I think I'm a realist. And I think, it's got to have an effect, right? I mean, when you're taking, couple $100 maybe out of, depending on, what you drive and where you're at, a month out of your budget for fuel, which wouldn't be a stretch, I don't think, for some people. It definitely isn't for me driving a diesel. It's it's got to hit somewhere, right? And what we understand about our buildings is, there's a line. Dave Ramsey says, there's a line, and you got to put things above the line or below the line when you're paying bills. And we know that shed's typically going to fall below the line, right? We're going to live indoors. We're going to pay the electric. We're going to, have gas in the car and insurance and feed the kids. All those things they're above the line. So when I talk to people that are struggling or whatever, I just explain to them, I understand where we kind of fall in the food chain. And if we can keep an open level of conversation and communication, and we can work out some payment plan, we'll go a distance. We'll walk with people pretty good ways. But if you're not going to take my call, and you're not going to, and you're going to avoid me, or you're going to try to sell my building, while it's in your yard, then we're going to take a little different approach, and we're going to do a retrieval quickly.
Yeah.
If we can, you don't get them all, but for most part, when we sell the building on the front end, we want to build a relationship from the word go, right? And so it's for us, it's worked. We're not some company somewhere else out of the state or whatever. It's us, it's our family, and that's kind of the way we approach it. We're like, hey, we understand things come up, and we'll work with you. But
I would say that's probably most unique than most shed companies that are listening to this, is you have that ability with you controlling your own contracts. Most shed companies are dealing with a third party rent to own company. And so they've got to do whatever that rent to own company is going to, they're kind of forced into that. But yeah, it's also a lot more risk on your part, because it's, you're floating all that capital.
Yep. We started with a third party, and we're still very good friends with that company. And but honestly, I approached it, I always felt like the companies we're working with, whether it's our manufacturer, any of our vendors, or a rental company, if they're not winning, how are we going to win? So anytime we put a building out, on rental, if at the sales point we didn't feel comfortable for whatever reason, they're breeding dogs and they want it for dog breeding or something, and so we're having a little more of a conversation, or they really need a chicken coop and they want a shed for that, and we're trying to protect our guys just like we would when it's mine. And I say, well, we're really not designed for chicken coops, so we're probably not going to have you put chickens in our shed that we're renting. We prefer not to do that. Now, I understand there's some legality of, you got to be careful that we're going to serve everybody that can come through and equally, but we're also, we want to make sure that, they own the property, or we know who owns the property, and certain things like that, and just kind of walk them through it. And often we'll send somebody to a different type product, that may serve them better if we don't have it. I mean, if we serve them well, we're going to get the referral on something else that fits us as our customer. So that's the way we approach it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Andrew, you have any questions on that?
Yeah. So do you see, we were talking about like repos and customers wanting a deal. I have two questions. One is, do you see a value of having those used ones on your lot to offer them something? And the second part of that question is, I know I was talking to Peter Boyle about this, but when you go by like car lots, they have their new cars like a Chevy dealership, and they have their repo section or used. They have the big banners that say that. Do you do anything like that to attract customers, or anybody on this listening to this call do that?
I haven't ever done the, a big repo sale sign or anything like that. I do think it's nice to have something like that where you can show. And sometimes when you take them over there and you show them, and they're like, well, for the difference, I think I just want a new one. Right. And we go back that direction. But I've never pushed the retrieval or the repo sale, because I don't think, or used building sale, because it's not what we're in. We're in the new building business sales. So I've just, and they typically don't stay long, right? So I've never had it like a bunch of them stacked up and then, had to try to blow them out or what have you. I mean, I believe if I probably had that situation, I would. It's just never been an issue for us to really have that many.
I know I've heard of some dealers creating a repo lot only. Like, all they do is they have multiple lots, and they put all their repos on one lot. So that way you can go to the bargain center and get a bargain. from that location. And it's just
My thought about that, Peter, is, Lord, I never hope I have that many buildings that are in that situation. as being one, I think that scares me to death that I would have enough that I would need another location. To be honest with you, but I could see that in some of the really big rental companies. It makes sense, right?
Yes.
Work. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
The issue would be, though, if it was managed by the dealer who's local and doing most of those buildings, that'd be fine. But if it was managed by the third party rental owned company, that would be kind of a competitor, and that would really be, to deal with that, to compete that.
Right. No, repos are usually not a friend of new manufacturing of sheds. New manufacturers don't look at repos as a good thing.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mike, a question for you off this topic, but you've been in the shed industry a long time, obviously more than us. And what are some of the biggest changes you've seen in the last 5 or 10 years? And then what are you excited for going forward?
Well, I think, like I spoke of earlier, the government involvement, I mean, the amount of involvement they're having on every type of product and the level that they're wanting us to build to. Luckily in Florida, we've been able to use this DCA program to kind of hone in and where everything can be built the same. I mean, there was a time, there was a little bit of a season where it looked like every single building department was going to be able to dictate how a shed was built for their particular area. And that was crazy town, right? Because we serve probably 25, maybe 30 different municipalities. So if you can imagine every one of them saying, well, you got to be this way or you got to be that way, that would be a nightmare. So getting that group together, that was, and that's been some time now that we've dealt with that. So that's been a change. You're seeing the model is changing, right? I know there's companies out there now that maybe are just white labeling buildings. And so it's not one dealer dealing with one manufacturer, maybe two manufacturers, but these factory lots that are popping up. We've seen a lot of those pop up around us, where you've got maybe a homeowner that's got a half acre in front of their house, and now they've got 30 sheds on them, selling them at for someone else. They really don't know anything about the shed industry, but now they've got all these buildings piled on the front of their yard, and they're selling them. And we haven't seen that before, but we've seen a bunch of dealers come and go over the years, if you can imagine. I mean, at one time, one of our busiest seasons, literally a mile around the corner from us, was 3 major manufacturers, dealerships, and us. So there was 4 shed dealers within a mile of each other. And honestly, we ended up making it through it, and but we did really well then because we kind of knew our level of service, we knew our product, and our price point. While it wasn't the cheapest, we were able just to build value into what we had. And when people would tell me, because I was actually really on the front line a lot then, they would say, well, we want to shop. And I said, well, if you're shopping, go down here to the corner, hang a left. There's 3 competitors right there. If you hit those 3 guys and you got mine, you're going to have 4 quotes. Then you just got to decide who you want to buy from. Well,
there you go.
What's wrong with them? Like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. I'm not here to bash them. I'm just telling you, if you're shopping, I'm not going to waste I won't waste your time on you trying to figure out where they're at. They're right down here. They're right around the corner. And, often they would either buy right then or they would be back, I mean, some people bought other places, but that's the joy of being able to pick. So excited about, our differences is these new lots, this new model. That's interesting. Of course, we've seen from cash only, back in the day, to financing or credit cards, then financing, now rent to own. I don't know what else there'll be after that, but there's always something new coming down the road, right? So that'd be interesting to see what's next, because those were big changes, right? From you could only get a shed if you paid cash. Of course, back then a 6x8, I think when I started, was $495 when my grandfather opened, right? And then it was like $695 for a long time, and then of course we're way beyond all that now.
So it's still $695. $695 down. $695 down.
Exactly. Yeah. So for us, the future, is a legacy play. For us personally, is the legacy play that our children are interested in the business, and we're walking them through it and making sure that they don't feel like they have to do it. That they're able to spread their wings and do something different if that's what they prefer. But the family business has been here and it's available, so we're excited about that.
Now, do you manufacture your own units, or do you sell for a brand?
Sell for a brand. We've been a Handy House dealer since '78.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and back in the day, a handshake deal with Don Flanders, the owner of Handy House, and his family's involved as well. His daughter is managing, and of course he's still there as well. And so we've had a long family relationship with them, and it's been a great relationship.
Nice.
Well, I know we were running a little bit longer than what we normally do, but we were on a little bit later. Mike, I really do appreciate you coming on board here, and your wisdom and insight is always appreciated. And I want to let you know that you're welcome anytime. You can join. We try to go on right around 2:00 on Wednesdays. We thought about moving that back maybe to early 9:00 or 10:00 in the morning. But we'll see where that goes, but we will stick to Wednesdays, and definitely looking forward to seeing you again soon. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon, but thank you, sir, for joining us.
Appreciate the opportunity. And I would just recommend, if there's anybody older or younger, if you'll just push it to be a lifelong learner. I'm a big proponent of finding out what's out there and look around. We're working with a group right now called Wild Leaders with our team, and their whole program is built on trust. And we all know that business moves at the speed of trust. And so we're working with them on doing some different things and some coaching. So small business can be a very, very lonely and isolating place. And you'll find out real quick, if anybody's listening to this new, that if you're new to this, the people that your friends and family that work for people don't fully appreciate what it's like when you're responsible for the payroll, you're responsible for these things, and it's a lot of weight to carry. Mm-hmm. So get in a group, get with guys like this, visit, share, talk, and you'll be better off for it. So thanks for letting me talk. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate you, sir.
Take care.
Thank you.
Wow, that was some great wisdom there at the end. And that is so true what Mike said about the people don't understand. And that's what this show is about. All you have to do is click that link, join the conversation, say hi, get your name out there, and just get in contact with people. And I'd be happy to share anything on our side as far as numbers, anything to help you guys, whatever we can do. Peter, we did have a question. It says, What brands are you selling? I know he said he was selling Handy House. Mike was selling Handy House. Peter, what are you selling? And the big question of the day is, where are you?
Okay, well, guessing, you can put it in the comments. Let me answer the first question. If somebody guesses that, then I'll tell you if you're right or not. So the brands that we sell are, for our aluminum sheds, we sell Smith-Built sheds. We also sell a wooden shed, which is an Eternity building. And then we sell a vinyl and stucco-sided shed. Also, you can do hardy board siding as well, whether it's a Suncrest shed. And then we also sell Overholt buildings, which is a greenhouse, dog kennel, chicken coop, those different things. So those are the brands that we're selling, and definitely look forward to helping you if you're in the Southwest Florida area. We would love to sell you a shed, but we are not just here to sell our brand. We're here to talk about the Simply Shed Talk for everybody who's listening.
Peter can't even go 40 minutes without trying to sell somebody a shed. I'm pretty sure everybody listening to this probably has a way to buy a shed. But if not, you can reach out to Peter. But anyways,
I got a story. I got a story about that. You got to let me tell my story. So,
oh boy, here we go. Story time.
We should have like a special segment. So somebody posted on, I think it was Shed Sales Professionals or something, that they had a friend that was in the, I I think it was the Sarasota area or something, that was looking for a shed. I contacted the person. They sent me over the contact number of the person. I was able to sell them the shed. So yes, even in the shed industry, you have friends that need sheds. So we would love to be able to help you out on that. But that's not our main goal with the Simply Shed Talk. We want to help you in your sales to make more sales yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about, is questions that you guys give. You can email Andrew at makingsalessimple.com or text me at 352-440-0786 and reach out, give us your questions, or if you are brave enough to hit that link, come on with us, ask us some questions, and just get involved in the shed industry. We're here to help you guys. We're here to answer questions, here for just community. But that is all the time we have for this week. I really appreciate it. You can follow us at the Simply Shed Talk group, Simply Shed Talk on YouTube. If you go to the Shed Sales Summit Facebook page, click the notify button. You'll get notified when we go live. That way you don't have to miss it. You can join live and ask your questions live. The whole point of being live is so you guys can ask the questions. You guys can get your opinion out there. You can disagree with Peter. We love that. But we will see you guys again next week. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. See you later.